Next question comes from Jim Wrightfield. What if the people at the convention were shouting, "Conserve, baby, conserve"? Should the government require higher auto emission standards for gasoline-powered cars or fleet standards for a percentage of flexible fuel vehicles? The general question being, what has happened to using less, encouraging people to use less? Why don't we do that? I believe this is the question I posed to Mr. Davis first.
I haven't been a big fan of CAFE standards because when they were implemented in the 1980s, what happened is that people could get around them by SUVs, minivans, things like that. It just created a boom in another aspect of the market. I think that the primary driving force in terms of what people choose with respect to an automobile are cost considerations, and those are personal choices. We're not going to tell people in rural areas that need pickup trucks to do their business that they can't have them. The CAFE standards, I think they place too much emphasis on them. They're a type of rationing, if you will. They're a type of almost wage and price controls. What we benefit is from having a free economy where individuals make a free choice whether they want to have a car that has a low gas mileage or a high gas mileage. We had rationing during World War II, and it is a type of rationing. And in this economy, our free economy, people work around it. Do we need to engage in conservation? Absolutely. Do we need emission standards to keep pollution down? Absolutely, we need that. There's a very important role for the government in that regard. We've seen that over the past decade that the standards for diesel fuel have been improved, such that the pollution from diesel vehicles is much less than it used to be. And that is a good thing. That's a positive role for government. But saying to people that you have to buy a small car that gets 40 miles to the gallon, when you buy a pickup truck that's 20 miles to the gallon, I don't think that that's the role of government. It doesn't need to be that way. It needs to be something that's driven economically and not through the government mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Walz?
Well, I'm pleased there was foresight in the 70s that the government decided that DDT was not something that was a free choice to spray as a product. Those decisions, as you make, are things that we make collectively on this. The issue of CAFE standards is a national security issue as well as an issue of the environment. I voted for and helped pass the first CAFE standard since the late 1970s to improve fuel efficiency standards, to make this nation use less oil, to bring us about energy independence, as well as bringing back the ability of Detroit to be able to compete. The bill that I helped work on incentivizes hybrid technology, incentivizes if you're going to buy a hybrid, there's going to be tax credits in there. For us to be able to do this, and the conservation side of things, that's the low-hanging fruit. When gas prices went up, back to the other question, we started conserving more oil in this nation by changes in habits than would ever be pumped out of ANWR. That happened instantaneously. If you want to pump ANWR, be ready to wait 15 years to see if it's going to happen. Be able to wait if it's going to be out there, and then be able to realize that your solution is only going to last several months. It's not going to be a long-range solution. The CAFE standard will give us more time to transition to the next alternative energies. And that's why I am supportive of them. I think it makes good sense. I think it's us collectively telling Saudi Arabia, and going back to that, I did vote on a bill that was called NOPEC to rein in the price gouging by OPEC, and my Republican colleagues defeated it. Prior to that vote, they made 16 motions to adjourn, 7 in one day. So this idea that this adjournment thing, people are tired of this. Talk straight to them, tell them what it was. There was going to be no solution because the president was going to vote on it. That's not what it's about. You know what it's about? Sitting down with 20 colleagues from both sides of the aisle and saying, yes, we'll take your drilling solutions if you will take our CAFE standard. That's how we get real solutions. That's what this country needs.
Thank you, Mr. Walz. Mr. Davis, you have 1 minute rebuttal.
I think the greatest incentive for us to conserve fuel over the last several months has actually been the increased price. People making personal choices about whether they're going to go on vacation or not. And that's unfortunate that we got to this point where fuel is $4 a gallon, and when we've had all this time in the past decades to increase our domestic oil supply. That's what we need to do. We're the only major nation in the world up until September 30th that had a ban on offshore drilling. It doesn't make sense. They have over 85% of the offshore areas a drilling ban when we can drill safely. We've demonstrated we can do that since 1969. We had 3 hurricanes go through the western Gulf of Mexico. There's 3,800 oil rigs, and only 50 of them malfunctioned. There were no major oil spills. So it is safe and something that we should have been doing over the past decade. We haven't been. Otherwise, if we had been, we wouldn't have seen this gas price problem all over the summer.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Walz, you have 1 minute left.
Well, I wonder why from 2000 to 2006, with control of all branches of government, the Republicans didn't do that. I also wonder why this ban was put in place by Ronald Reagan, who was governor of California, one of these states. I also wonder, and Dr. Davis accuses that the new Congress came in and caused all these problems. I always think that's a bit like baiting the police when they show up at the scene of a crime. We started asking questions on this. And now, if us not doing anything in August drove up the price, then do I get to take credit for it being back to $2.63 here at the gas station? The issue on this is the semantics of political games. We all know oil is a finite resource. We all know we have 3% of it, and yet we use 25% of it. We all know that time is running out to use that energy resource to transition to the new ones, and yet we saw it stop time and time and time again. Not a single thing on energy alternative under the Republican Congress. That's all changed now.
Thank you, Mr. Walz.